everyone, and welcome back to the Football Chuggu Podcast. My name is Thomas Durning, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Pearse McLaughlin. Hello, Pearse.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing well. On today's podcast, we'll be reacting to last weekend's English Premier League and Scottish Premier League results. We'll be briefly discussing the latest kind of news about some changes to the SPFL. And at the end of the podcast, Pearse will be giving a rundown of all the latest Asian football news. So we'll start off with last weekend's English Premier League results. So on Saturday, the 5th of April, the results finished Everton 1, Arsenal 1, Crystal Palace 2, Brighton 1, Ipswich 1, Wolves 2, West Ham United 2, Bournemouth 2, Aston Villa 2, Nottingham Forest 1. On Sunday, the 6th of April, was Brentford 0, Chelsea 0, Fulham 3, Liverpool 2, Tottenham 3, Southampton 1, Man United 0, Man City 0. And lastly, on Monday, the 7th of April, the results finished Leicester 0, Newcastle 3. So just before I ask you, Pearse, which match stands out to you the most, I just want to briefly say that the Tottenham 3, Southampton 1 match, so because Southampton lost that match 3-1, it was confirmed that they were relegated, so they will be playing in the Championship, English Championship next season. So, Pearse, which match from the weekend stands out to you the most?
That is that match. The Tottenham 3 Southampton 1, because I think it was the most significant result of the weekend, because it means that Southampton are now officially relegated from the Premier League. And I'm right to believe it's the earliest a team has ever been relegated in the Premier League history. The points total is really low, and they're maybe on course to worsen Derby County's record back in 07-08, which was a record low. So, and with the modern money, bigger wages now, you think it's not possible. But like you say, I think the fact is that Tottenham have been on a terrible run of form, let's be honest. Couldn't buy a win in any place Southampton because you just know it's a guaranteed win. I think Southampton have been that easy to play against this season. And then obviously the fact is, I think it just shows you the massive gap in golf in terms of finance, power, and just overall quality of player from the Championship to the Premier League, and that's potentially now it could be the potential second season in a row that all three promoted sides get relegated, and I think that's a damning stat from England, because I think it just shows you the golfing class, and it's just getting wider and wider. And I think any aspiring Championship club that it's the dream to play in the Premier League. But I think once they get to the first match day, I think that joy of getting promoted is just gone right away, because they know how difficult a task it is to even remain in the league. And obviously we've got Ipswich and Leicester clinging on for dear life, but I think only a matter of weeks before they get relegated as well, because I think, like you say, the golf is getting too big, and the promoted sides are just struggling because it also PSR as well. You cannot lose a certain amount of money and all that, and you have to sell your homegrown players. And that's what Leicester did. It starts the season with selling Dewsbury Hall, because it kind of counts as double, because obviously homegrown costs you zero. But no, I thought that was the most significant result from the weekend. Obviously, Tottenham 3, Southampton 1.
Yep. Yeah. My standout match is Fulham 3, Liverpool 2, but I agree that that's obviously a significant one because Southampton got relegated. It was also obviously inevitable. They've had such a bad season. It's been terrible for them. They just have not coped with the step up at all. But after that match, the Southampton manager, Ivan Juric, he left because I think there was a relegation clause or something. So if Southampton got relegated, then he was allowed to escape. Well, not escape, but leave his contract. So that's happened. So they've got an interim manager until the end of the season, but they're just in a bit of a mess at the moment. Obviously relegated. Again, they all seem to be. They're such a yo-yo club, Southampton. They go up and down. a lot. And I actually think because they sacked Russell Martin in December, and when I think about it, I don't see why they did, because I think they've got worse since he left. So so Southampton down, which was always going to happen, and it's not a really it's not really a nice start for them that they're the earliest club to get relegated. But my standout match was Fulham 3, Liverpool 2. Obviously Liverpool, they're kind of running away with the title, but I just felt this was a significant one because I don't know why, but like I don't think Liverpool have been that great the last 2-3 months at all. They've lost a cup final, they're out the Champions League, and they just seem to be kind of scraping along a wee bit. I mean, I think they're quite lucky that there's no real title contender now, because I think if Arsenal were right on the tails, I think I would fancy Arsenal more as favourites to win the title, but they've dropped off. So Liverpool are obviously clear favourites, but they will go on to win the title, but they definitely haven't been, for me, anything special. I just think they've been, very solid with the experienced players that they've managed to get over the line. But it was a really good result for Fulham. They played really well. And they're going to be in for a shout for a European place at the end of the season. And we'll definitely not talk about the Man United-Man City match, because that was really dull. And Gary Neville was talking about how he was really tired of the football that he's watching nowadays, in terms of teams trying to play this sort of passing football, and they're not capable of doing it. And yeah, that was a really bad game. So, but my standout match: Fulham 3, Liverpool 2.
Tom, before we
So
move on, I think we need
on
to
you go.
mention the fact that Kevin De Bruyne's announced he's leaving Manchester City.
Oh yeah. That's a good one. Yeah, absolutely. So he's obviously leaving end of the season. That's been announced. For me, it wasn't a big surprise. Because I think his injuries have just kind of managed to catch up with him now. But in my opinion, he's probably the best centre mid the Premier League have ever had. I mean, he's got some competition there, like Paul Scholes, Gerrard, Lampard, etc. But he was unbelievable. He could do anything. He had left foot, right foot. His vision, creativity. He had good pace as well. Unbelievable player. So yeah, that was good. But what about you, Pearse? Is he your best Premier League centre mid?
I don't think so. Not for me. I think
No.
he's certainly up there because there's so many, like you mentioned. You mentioned the trident that everyone mentions: Scholes, Gerrard, Lampard, and also you've got Beckham, Giggs.
Yeah,
You've got players like Michael Carrick. You've also got players like Patrick Vieira, Emmanuel
yep.
Petit. The
Roy
list goes
Keane.
on and on. There's so many. Roy Keane. But I think technically he's up there with the best because, like you say, and the fact is what he's won. He's been there for 10 years, and he's been a catalyst for there's so many titles that they've won in a row. Won 4 in a row, but he's won so many. He's won FA Cups, Carabao Cups, and the goals, assists. More for me. The best thing about Kevin De Bruyne is just his ability and his passing range to see
Yeah,
passes that no one else can do. I think the only one that kind of comes close to him nowadays is like Trent Alexander-Arnold in terms of technique. That first time ball in behind, and it's just perfect every time. And that's why even when Man City won the Champions League for the very first time, Haaland got 52 goals, but how many assists did Kevin De Bruyne get? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like he's the most important player. But like you mentioned, he's 34 years of age now. Um, Injuries have caught up to him. He's barely played this season. I mean, he's played. He's been off the bench. And I think he's not a player that should be sitting on the bench regardless of his age. And I think he could potentially get another couple of years either abroad in Germany, back to Germany where he's played before. He could go back to Belgium, could go to Saudi, could go to La Liga. It just remains to be seen. But I think there'll be plenty of suitors for Kevin De Bruyne because he might not have the legs, but he's still got the technical ability and he's still got the brain. And for me, he has to go down as one of the best ever midfielders in the Premier League's ever seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with everything you said. Just before we move on quickly, that midfield of De Bruyne, David Silva, and Fernandinho, I think was such an underrated midfield. It doesn't get talked about enough. But they were amazing. Um, but yeah, Kevin De Bruyne leaving at the end of the season. So we'll move on now to the Scottish Premier League results from last weekend. So the results finished: Dundee 2, St Mirren 0, Kilmarnock 2, Motherwell 0, Rangers 0, Hibs 2, Ross County 0, Aberdeen 1. And then on Sunday, the 6th of April, we had two matches which finished: St Johnstone 1, Celtic 0, Hearts 0, Dundee United 1. So I think we both know there's two standout matches here. Um, I think we've got to start with the St Johnstone Celtic game because I think we both agree that probably stands out more.
Take it
So
away.
Pearse, kick us off.
No, you take it away, Tom. You take it away.
Maybe we take it away. Well, with St Johnstone 1, Celtic 0. I mean, a big shot because obviously the day before Rangers lost 2-0 to Hibs. So that meant that Celtic only had to get two more victories. So they had to beat St Johnstone. And then if they beat St Johnstone, then next Saturday they would have played. On Saturday they'd play Kilmarnock at home. If they beat Kilmarnock at home, they would won the title. But it hasn't transpired like that because St Johnstone have pulled off a massive victory. We'll start just quickly on St Johnstone. It was for me. It was really. I thought they really deserved it. I thought they were brilliant on the day. They worked really hard. They got a goal, and the goalkeeper had an absolutely immense game. I mean, the amount of saves he made was unbelievable. Um, and they're right down at the bottom there, and obviously they need as wins as many as possible, and they've not had a good season. And the fact that they've got 3 points against runaway leader Celtic, that'll give them a huge amount of confidence in the remaining games. But they've got to back it up now. But St Johnstone, what a massive victory that is for them. And that keeps them right in the hunt for getting out of the trouble that they're in. And whereas Celtic, it was a really poor performance from them. They've actually been really poor, to be fair, for the last month or two. Ever since I feel like they've been knocked out Champions League against Bayern Munich, I think they've dropped off a lot because they've started playing weekly games, so no games during the week. And I think that's been worse for them because I just don't feel like they're up for games anymore as much as they used to be. That they've lost that sort of fluency. Their football's become very boring to watch. I think Brendan Rodgers at the end of the game, really wasn't happy. I mean, he was coming out with stuff like he'd learned about players that don't feel like they're up to the standards. They feel like they're just coming on and they think it's just going to be an easy day. And you can't be like that as a Celtic player. That's the kind of stuff he was saying. So instead of Celtic romping to the title, they're sort of limping because they're definitely going to win the title, obviously, but they're limping towards it because they've been really poor recently. So that was a massive shock. St Johnstone 1, Celtic 0. What you getting more to add to what I've said, Pierce?
Yeah, well, I think you mentioned, I think we've got to touch on Celtic first. I think Celtic were, like you say, they're passive, easy to play against, and they were slow to blocks recently. And like you say, the form's been up and down recently. It's pretty similar to Liverpool. They're so far ahead that they know the title's already wrapped up. And you would think, like you mentioned, one game a week, you think that you'd have enough time to prepare, get your tactics on the training pitch and get the players up for it. But it seems to be opposite. They seem to be just in holiday mode. If you look at Celtic the way they play, a lot of players aren't performing at a level. In particular, players like Nicholas Kuhn, I think he's been a shadow of himself. He was up for Player of the Year at the start of the season before January. And like you mentioned before up to that Bayern Munich game, Celtic were flying, beating every team domestically, and they've had 4 defeats since the turn of the year. And if you go by the form book, Hibs have got more wins since January than Celtic and Rangers, and that just shows you that Celtic and Rangers had a massive drop off. And like you say, this is probably one of the worst Rangers sides according to Rangers fans and statistics. And Celtic, like you mentioned, they've got a chance to win the treble, but it feels as if it's like it doesn't feel great though, because the fact is, like, you watch the performances recently, they're not playing to the level that they know they can. Um,
Mhm.
and like you say, I think you summed up perfect. I think they're limping towards the title, where you should obviously try steamroll your way as quickly as possible to the title. But I think there's obviously a lot of players that are not at the level. And then you mentioned St Johnstone, rock bottom of the league, and I'm pretty sure if they get a defeat at the weekend against Celtic, they would have been officially relegated. So it just shows you the goalkeeper had a tremendous game. I thought they get early goal perfect. They can hang on and hold on to something, and they defended manfully. And I thought they thoroughly deserved a victory. Although Celtic had a few chances that they probably should have scored, and hit the woodwork a couple of times. But I think all in all, I think St Johnstone thoroughly deserved a win. Um, and they could potentially escape relegation. A result like that, if you're doing that against the top team in the league, you've got every chance. And I thought they thoroughly deserved it. And Valakari's got to take credit because I thought he got his tactics spot on.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, nothing else to add really. It was just a big win for St Johnstone there, and obviously that's now means that Celtic's kind of title party has been delayed, which is quite surprising. Uh, so we'll now move on just briefly. Rangers 0, Hibs 2. So that to me, for me, in my opinion, I can't even believe I'm really saying this, but I don't think it's that much of a shock because it's happened to the Rangers a lot. I mean, that's what five home. I think that's five home games that they've gone without winning in the league.
No, five
Uh,
defeats in a row at home.
Five
The first
defeats in a row.
time in their history that's ever happened.
That's crazy. That's crazy, crazy. You never think that. I mean, with the budget Rangers have got, the size of club, the stadium, you just never would think that would happen.
Rangers haven't won a home game since the middle of February, and that was against Ross County.
I mean, that is crazy. It really is. They just can't play at home. It's a big mystery as to why because you know they've got 50,000, 60,000 fans cheering them on and they just can't cope with that pressure. I mean, it is pressure. I don't think the Rangers players can cope with the fact that they're going to dominate the game with the ball, and I think they struggle with that. I think they struggle with teams sort of sitting back and hitting them in the counter attack in the league because they're just getting hurt every time. And the worst team to do it to at the moment, the worst team to get hit in the counter attack at the moment is Hibs because they're the most informed team in the league. Um, you know, I mean, I swear I talk about Hibs on this podcast every week, but I mean, again, it's a massive victory for them. Celtic and Rangers, they've both beaten this season. What a job David Gray's doing there. But the Rangers, very poor. Barry Ferguson, he quite really wasn't happy. He said that he can't accept that type of that type of performance. Um, and it's just been a sorry season for Rangers domestically. And they still got Europa League they're in, but yeah, I think for Rangers again, it's going to be big changes in the summer.
Yeah, no, totally agree with you.
What do you think? Yeah,
I think that Rangers, like you say, I think they're suited towards European football domestically. They don't seem to handle teams that sit in. And like you say, you mentioned you've got the pace of Martin Boyle, and I think and the Rangers play that high line, and it's just asking for trouble. And then obviously they get the two goals, but even just talk about the first goal, Tom, and let's see, Jack Butland. How many times is he going to make mistakes this season? Like he said, some unbelievable performances because we know he's a good goalkeeper, right? But how many mistakes has he done this season? It's cost Rangers big time. And if you're having a goalkeeper that's constantly making mistakes, and then you've got a striker like Cyril Dessers, that is like he's an enigma because the fact is he takes so many chances to score a goal, but he still gets a decent amount of a decent return on his goals. He just and then the fact is as well another bad statistic for Rangers. 5 of the last 7 games for Rangers went 2-0 down,
yeah,
which I think is mental. I think for any
yeah.
Rangers side that is unacceptable. You shouldn't have to go 2-0 down to then spark into life to a reaction to happen. It never happened at the weekend, but every other game that you've seen under Ferguson's tenure so far, they've had a reaction in the second half. whether it be personnel and obviously the team talks and whatever, it sparked them into life. But the fact is to go down 2-0, and the fact is the manner the goals are conceding, it's just not good enough. And like you say, I think Hibs, we talked about at the start of the season for the wrong reasons, how poor they were and thought we were going to get relegated. How wrong were we? Because it was the derby which changed it all. Or it might have been Aberdeen game. Where it was literally a draw away from getting sacked. They got a last minute equaliser and
Yep.
it kick start
Yep.
David Gray's tenure. And ever since then they've been unbelievable domestically. And I think David Gray's got to be up there for a shout for manager of the year, considering
Yeah.
what he's done with this Hibs side and the run he's went on. Even though Brendan Rodgers might win a treble, but it's the fact is that they're limping towards it. And Celtic are expected to win every domestic trophy, or I think Hibs have been kind of floundering for the last couple of years, like they've been bottom six and stuff like that. So I think the job he's doing, the way they're playing football, and the way they're competing against every side, you just think that Hibs are going to win every single week, similar to what Aberdeen are doing at the start of the season. But they went off the boil something awful, and they've only started to come back into form a little bit. But I think, like you mentioned, I think it's not really a shock result, but if you go by the name of the club, like you think Rangers, it just how they can perform so well in Europe and then domestically they just taper off, and they're having all these wrong statistics for a reason. Because I think a lot of these players just aren't good enough for Rangers. I think they, like you mentioned, they need a massive clear out in the summer, because a lot of these players just aren't good enough, and they're potentially just don't want to turn up for the smaller games because they think they're probably too good. They think they could just half arse it and then think they can just get the victory. Whereas in Scottish football, that is not the case. You need to be at it 100% of the time because a lot of these teams, like you say, at the bottom of the league and mid-table, they're all fighting for something. They're all fighting for survival. And a lot of these players, I don't think, seem to have the fight.
Yep, I agree. And it doesn't help as well when the goalkeeper Jack Butland's making mistake after mistake. It feels like every weekend. That was another big mistake he made for the first goal. So yeah, but so that's obviously the two matches that standed out. So quite a big week in Scottish football. Something else in this week in Scottish football, just briefly, Pearse. So the SPFL competitions working group. So it's like a something related to the Scottish Premier League. So this group drafted up a proposal that would cut the number of sides in the top flight, reducing the amount of fixtures from 38 to 36 and scrapping the top six split. So I would mean that instead of having 12 teams in the top flight, it would be cut to 10. So what's your thoughts on that, Pearse? Do you like that? Do you like it keeping the same, or would you actually prefer it to be increased?
I don't like that proposal at all. I actually really enjoy the top six and the bottom six because it adds a little bit of spice. Because see the teams that they're all fighting to get in that top six,
Mm-hmm.
because that means something. Like let's be
Yeah,
honest, like the top two are always going to fight for the title, right? But then like usually it's wrapped up before the end of the season, right? But even like the game before the split, teams are fighting. It's yo-yoing, and then you've got teams fighting to be, and then playing against each other in the bottom six and the top six. It adds a bit of spice, and it's good. I like that. Cutting it to 10 is a no-no for me. I think it's an extra two games you're missing out on. That's not really a big difference, considering like you look at this, you've got five subs you can make, and you've got bigger squads now than you've ever had. So I don't think that's a massive difference. I think that's more Celtic Rangers are wanting to cut down because obviously they wanted to factor in Europe and stuff like that, more games in Europe. But I think you just then probably play youngsters if you want. But I think for me, the league should be expanded. I think that should then taper down to the other divisions and maybe make the championship a bit bigger as well. Whether that happens or not, I'm not too sure. But I think a 14-team league in the top flight would be brilliant for the Scottish Premiership because I think 14 playing each side four times is not great. I think maybe playing each other twice or three times is a bit better. Whether you make the top six or top eight. Well, 14 top seven, top seven, bottom seven. I think that'd be pretty good. And I just think there's a couple of teams in the Championship that are massive. That they should, and like you say, Tom, let's see, there's only one team that gets automatically promoted, and then the team that finishes second. So teams like second to like sixth or whatever it is, they play a playoff, but the team that's second is like a semi final. They get to that, and then the team that's finished second plays the team that's 11th, and usually
I know.
the team 11th in the Premiership usually doesn't play the matches, and they've got the advantage, and they've got
The
usually
rest and stuff.
advantage as well, and usually the team that finishes 11th always stays in the division. So Ross County the last 2 years have done that. When they probably should have got beat off a Thistle and stuff like that as well. And yeah, for me, I think that needs to change in terms of, I think it should be two teams that got in a potential third for the playoff. Like you've got down in England and stuff like that. I think that needs to be revised. But I think having a bigger league and less not playing each side 4 times, well, I think it'll be more competitive league, and I think a better league, and I think it's a better pathway for teams to get promoted, because I think only one team get promoted a year basically is not good enough, and I think 12 is kind of boring. I think keep the top half and bottom half split, and just make it a bigger league and a better league, and I think it'll be beneficial to all of Scottish football.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you just said. But I've always been in favour of increasing the top flight numbers, because I just think 12 teams, it does sort of get boring, because you feel like you're playing the same teams sort of every week. So like you play, say it's Motherwell Kilmarnock, they play each other and then they could be playing each other again in like 2 3 weeks. And I just feel like the more teams, and I think it gives teams who are in the lower leagues, it gives them more representation, for example, because they'll be playing, they'll get more of a chance of playing the likes of Celtic and Rangers and like Hibs and Arsenal and stuff like that. And it also tests them. It also tests these clubs that don't feel like they've ever got a chance of getting up in the leagues. And if they, you know what I mean? So I'm very much in favour of increasing the league. And I would probably be in favour of keeping the split. How that would work, I don't know. Um, and yeah, I'm in favour of it, but definitely a no for me for cutting the top flight. I just think that wouldn't be beneficial at all. I just there would be no competitive in it for anyone, competitiveness in it for anyone. And I just think that'd be a big mistake. But we'll see what happens. So that was a proposal, and obviously we'll see what happens in the future. So for the final part of the show, Pearson will give his Asian football roundup.
Yeah, so we'll start off with some J League One action. So with match day 9 of the J League, so we had one match on Saturday, the 5th April, and that was Yokohama F Marinos 0, Tokyo Verde 0. And then Sunday, the 6th April, we had Fagiano Okayama FC 1, FC Tokyo 0, Avispa Fukuoka 1, Ura Diamonds 0, FC Cheers Elvia 2, Kawasaki Frontale 2, Vissel Kobe 0, Alberts Nagata 1, Kashri Antlers 3, Kyoto Sanga 4, Yokohama FC 2, Shimizu Ep12 0, Kashi Reso 1, Gambo Osaka 0, Sanfrecce Hiroshima 2, Seiz Osaka 1, Shonan Bamari 2, Nagoro Grampus 1. And then we've also got a fixture to be played on Wednesday, the 9th of April, which is tomorrow night. And that is Kawasaki Frontale versus Yokohama F Marinos, and that's set for 7 p.m. kickoff. In terms of the league table, so the top 3 are SV Cheers Elvia and Sanfrecce Hiroshima, both joint top with 17 points and a +4 goal difference, but Machinas Elvia have played a game more than Sanfrecce Hiroshima, so they've got a chance to, obviously, with the game and a half, they win that to go clear outright. And then you've got from 3rd all the way down to 5th, we have Kashima Antlers on 3rd, Kashiwari's on 4th, and Avispa Fukuoka on 5th, and they're all on 16 points, separated by just 5 goals, so really incredibly tight at the top of the table and very competitive. In terms of the bottom half of the table, so we've got bottom of the table, we've got 20 Prishmi Alberts Nagata on 7 points, Yokohama Marinos 19th with 7 points, which is a massive club. It's rock bottom. I think they're having a woeful season, and it needs to change sooner rather than later, or they could be in serious trouble. They go Grampus in 18th on 8 points, and just outside the relegation places, we have FC Tokyo on 8 points also. So 4 sides are separated by just a 1 point, and it's incredibly tight in the J League. So in terms of K League 1, we had matchday 7 at the weekend. Saturday 5th April, we had Ulsan HDFC 0, FC Seoul 0, Daejeon Ha Citizen 0, Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors FC 2, Gimcheon Sangwoo 2, Daegu FC 0, Suwon FC 1, Pohang Steelers 1, and then we had 2 matches on Sunday, the 6th April, and that was FC Anyang 2, Gangwon FC 0, Gwangju FC 1, Jeju SK 0, and we've also got 1 match tomorrow night as well, Wednesday 9th of April, and that is Gwangju FC host Daegu FC, and that's set for 7:30 kickoff. So in terms of the league table, the top 3 are Daejeon Ha Citizen on top, 16 points from 8 games, Gimcheon Sangwoo and FC Seoul finish up the top 3 with Gimcheon on 14 and FC Seoul on 12 points. So the bottom, we have Suwon FC, 7 matches played, 4 points, and then you've got from 11th all the way up to 9th, we have Gangwon FC, Jeju SK, and Daegu FC, all on 7 points, separated by just a 1 goal. So in terms of other Asian football news, Japanese and Celtic forward Daizan Maeda has now gone and won back-to-back William Hill Scottish Premiership Player of the Month awards for February and now March. Yukinari Sugawara has now officially been relegated from the English Premier League with Southampton. With 7 games to go, it's earliest relegation in the Premier League history, an unwanted start for the Japanese fullback. And the top marksmen from each Asian Champions League elite quarter-finalists are here. Who will lead their side to glory? It remains to be seen. The Asian Champions League starts up very soon. So from each side that are in the Asian Champions League quarterfinals, we have Anderson Lopez from Yokohama Marinos with 9 goals. Jasir Asani from Gwangju FC also got 9 goals. We've got Salim Al-Dasari from Al Hilal with 8 goals. Riyad Mahrez from Al Ali with 8 goals. Cristiano Ronaldo Al Nassr 7 goals. Akram Afif Al Sad with 5 goals. Marcinho from Kawasaki Frontale has got 4 goals. And then to finish up the list, we've got Bisoli from Buraham United of Thailand with 4 goals. And that is all your latest Asian football news.
Thank you, Pearse, and thank you everyone for listening to this episode of the Football Chuggu Podcast. This podcast will be available to listen to on the Football Chuggu YouTube channel and also the Football Chuggu website. Thanks for listening and see you soon.
Bye-bye.